Hi, welcome into Tuesday Tidbits and Topics Live. I'm Catherine Ritchie. This is Jennifer McCormick. Thank you so much
Hello.
for joining us. Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears here chatting all things Disney and Universal. So thank you for joining us live or for watching us later on as well. Before we kind of jump into news and our topic, please feel free to go ahead and hit that bell icon. So you will hear anytime that we go live when we're in the parks or anytime we upload a video from Universal and Disney. If you're watching now, hit that thumbs up. That helps us know that you're here watching, but also just helps us get our information out to more people. So if you are watching tonight and you have a question.
Oh, and she left us. So apparently it's just me. If you're watching tonight and you've got a question for us, please come on over and you're welcome to ask in the chat. Otherwise, if you find us later and you are looking, for more information, you can always still comment on the video, or you are welcome, to join us at our Facebook group or page, Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears, a guide to all things Disney and Universal. So, today we've got a little bit of news, and then it was my thought to go and talk through all things Run Disney, since the Wine and Dine race weekend opened for booking today. So looks like Catherine's coming back in just a minute here. I finished the rest of that, so welcome back.
I was talking and talking and talking, and I was like, why is Jennifer not talking? What is I'm telling you.
You disappeared.
I did disappear, and I could see, I was like, what happened? So all right, I'm back. I don't know where I left off. I don't know where
you're back. No, that's okay. We're good. We're almost all shared out now that I'm not talking
it's
anymore.
We haven't done this for a year or something.
Oh my goodness. There's just so much going on at this time of year, and everybody's traveling or thinking about traveling. So, I know you were mentioning you were spending some time, with someone earlier today, just about a Disney World trip. I've got people looking at cruises. I just booked a family for Disneyland Paris later on this year. And, we've got a lot of travels coming up. So
absolutely. That client I was just talking to before this kind of said they haven't traveled in 2 years. So it's all those trips that they were planning on, or he said, I promised our 4-year-old this trip and she's 6 now. So we're making the most of it. So
there you go.
Yeah. So we know we're seeing a lot of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are ready to travel, and like vaccine requirements are still there in some cases, but then extra testing requirements aren't necessarily the way they were. And so we're seeing things loosen up quite a bit, really traveling a lot of different places. So it's getting easier to go where you want to go, especially outside of the continental US. So
right.
All good things.
Absolutely. So before we kind of go over some news, we're travel agents with Mickey Travels and Let's Adventure Travel. So that is why we host this and have our great Facebook group as well. So if you're not in there, check that out. Lots of great information. And it's not just coming from us, it's coming from over 2,000 people in the group. So if you have a question, whether you're totally new or you're well seasoned, feel free to go to that. Not just us, for some resources as well. So we love
absolutely. And also, the nice thing about having Facebook community is that it's a great place to celebrate as well. So it's a great place to ask questions. But if if you want to celebrate a wonderful trip, but an amazing experience with a cast member, that's a wonderful place to share those pieces too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Before we get into everything, I just wanted to share, I was talking to one of my clients today. They depart on Sunday. They are the cutest couple. I can't wait to see more pictures. But she has made her, it's her first visit, has made her own ears. I'll have to ask them if I can share it in the group. Like the cutest Star Wars ones, but she made it from everything they had in their house.
Oh, fun.
So like Disney inspired things, but like the little fur was from some slippers, and then she was the Beauty and the Beast one. So they leave on Sunday. So I know Ben and Shauna, hello, and they're in the group. So hopefully they'll share some pictures. But love to see that. Just again, they're just so excited to go. as a couple and have a great time. So we
That's
love hearing those
wonderful.
things too.
Yes.
We live vicariously through our clients as well. So that is
I love to see what people can come up with, with their craftiness too, because I am the one making the purchases on Etsy. Once upon a time, I used to feel like I was crafty, but I think you just have to have that, front of mind and be doing it, I think, on a regular basis, I think, to be up on it. And it takes me a long time to get back into that mindset again, now that I am really no longer doing a whole lot of crafty things.
I don't think I've ever been there. Like, I'm
Really?
the people that Etsy was created for. I'm happy to buy those items from you.
Oh, yeah.
So I told her, I said, take some cards with you, because you might have people that ask you. Because anytime they're really different, people like those unique ones. So
absolutely,
you never know. But anyone who's creative out there, we applaud you, and probably we would buy your items.
Let us know.
It all, yeah, absolutely. So
very fun.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are just a few pieces of news this week. I don't think that there's been a whole lot of big news, I guess. So there are a few things that come to front of mind for me, just because I'm very excited about it. But we learned that the Tumble monkeys are coming back to the Festival of the Lion King. And if you are familiar with the Festival of the Lion King show at Animal Kingdom Park, it's an incredible show, theater in the round. And it's been modified since it, came back, and, missing a lot of the contact pieces. And so the Tumble monkeys, of course, are acrobatics, and they couldn't really do their show without being in contact with each other. And so they are coming back at some point this summer. We don't know when exactly, but there was a post on, I don't even know, was it Instagram or TikTok or one of those, specifically from Disney, just, hinting that they will be back and that they are rehearsing. And so I think that's really exciting news.
It is. Another little piece that's coming together.
Absolutely. I know. But also on the flip side of that, we learned that the Spirit of Aloha Luau is not returning at all to Disney World. And so that's unfortunate, because I feel like it was a really fun show. I've got some great memories there with my family. I'm glad that we were able to go. I love a great luau. I know some people thought it was a little bit kitschy, I guess. The story was silly, but I don't know. The luau's I've ever been to, in Hawaii are story and kind of fun and, silly at the same time. And yeah, of course, wonderful entertainment. So I thought it was great. But, Disney announced that they are building a new set of Disney Vacation Club villas in that space. And so it looks like, to me, from the renderings, that they will be removing that area, and eventually it will become additional lodging over there, which is great, because the Polynesian is really difficult to book these days. So, yeah,
it's true. And I think that, Disney does make these decisions based on demand too. Right. And I'd say, gosh, it'd be hard to guess, but I feel like the past few years, it has definitely been a lot harder to find anything, let alone to find a couple of options. I think we usually in other resorts can offer a couple of different room categories, and that's just not, you're lucky it's almost to find anything there that's available.
And fairly far in advance. I mean, several months in advance, and it's almost entirely booked up. So
right. And rightfully so. It's great theming and it's great location. So it is that's what I think also very sentimental for families that just feel very strongly about it. So,
right. Well, and it's an original resort to the area. So, but with the transportation and ticket center right over there, easy walking distance, you could walk to the Grand Floridian and walk to Magic Kingdom that way around. So, I mean, it's just a great location, and, Trader Sam's is a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
If you're looking for some adult beverages or not so adult beverages. My kids love Trader Sam's too. So.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I think that they will, it seems like the plan is to move very quickly on that construction. So I think maybe a couple of years, we'll see some new options over at the Polynesian.
I know. Crazy.
I know.
Crazy good. We like that.
Right. Are there any other pieces of news that you saw pop up that week that you thought?
I don't feel like I have. I mean, I do feel like transportation. I don't know if we want to talk about that from the airport at all. I mean, that hopefully will be remedied soon too.
Right.
So for those who, knew about Magical Express, that is no longer January 1st, different options as well. So, and as you can imagine, after that being what it was for so long, there are some growing pains. So and as we also know, across this country, just staffing issues and so many things. So I think it's a lot of factors going into that.
Right.
But we were seeing some cancellations and some different options. That's why booking with us is a good thing. We're here to help you. And I mean, Jennifer, you've been on the phone a lot.
I might have a little PTSD with some.
You're not alone. I mean, remember, we're an agency with a lot of wonderful agents, and that's where we can sharing information, and we all have been. So if you're looking for transportation beyond Uber or Lyft from Orlando International to the parks, to the resorts or the parks, we can help you with that and give you some suggestions too.
Yeah.
It is again, Uber and Lyft is great, but it's a gamble in terms of price.
Right.
Everyone has their preferences too, but with Mears Connect and Sunshine Flyer, that seems to be getting really great reviews as well. So
I have to say, I'm still on the Mears Connect bandwagon. It still does what I needed to do. It seems like the safest option. It's not always the fastest option. It was for me. I got a private bus.
I know you did.
I was the only one on the bus. The bus driver was super chatty. Everyone there was incredibly friendly. I have no complaints whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But if it continues to operate like the Magical Express did, for the price, I think it's an incredible option because of the fact that flights are so precarious right now. And Mears Connect operates 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you are booked on the Mears Connect, now it's a shared motor coach transportation. And so there are other folks on with you. You'll stop likely at multiple resorts. But if your flight is delayed or canceled, you've got that Mears Connect transportation and you have up to 48 hours from your original arrival time to get on the next available motor coach with no hiccups, no issues at all. Right. And so as far as I'm concerned, with the number of issues I've seen and, work with, clients on when it comes to delays and cancellation, and I'm arriving next day, what do I do? You're golden, really, if you're on the Mears Connect. And I feel like, so what if I have to stop and sit? I don't have to wait for a driver. I don't have to have a private driver show up and I didn't show up and be charged twice, which can definitely happen because you're contracting for that time. And if the driver's there and you're not,
right,
that's how that works in most cases. And so, so that's a really difficult situation. And so I don't know. I right now I'm all in, with the Mears Connect. And, so far the folks I've been working with have had, decent experiences other than sometimes having to be, on the motor coach a little bit longer. But
right,
to me, what's an extra half an hour?
And it's very reasonable.
Yeah.
It really is. So yeah, it's not free, but
no, $16 per adult each way or per guest 10 plus and a little bit less for kids, $13.50, each way for kids. But for that peace of mind, I think it's,
I think that, like you were saying, we're saying we've both been traveling a lot and flying a lot, and we're just seeing more, you're just seeing more delays naturally. That's just the way. So the fact that you just don't have to worry about that piece of your trip is wonderful. Because gosh, I hope you don't get delayed 48 hours, but if it's just even 12 hours to just think, okay, I can land and still proceed like I was planning to.
Right.
So
I've had a few folks end up coming in the next day, at least 24 solid hours later than they expected to be there. And that's not unheard of. That's happening right now.
And it's the season of tornadoes and crazy weather and just, again, staffing issues and things like that. The one thing I will say with it, and I'm not going to probably have the words correct because I posted it probably a week ago or so, Orlando International is offering, so we both have TSA PreCheck. For those who don't know what that is, you do pay for that. It's $85 for 5 years and gets you through a much faster lane. If you fly to Orlando, it is worth its weight in gold, is what I will say.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Orlando International, as you can imagine, one of the busiest airports in America. So if you are used to getting to the airport 2 hours early, or if you were like me, you've heard all my stories about flying in, skin of my teeth. Orlando, it's no joke to get there 2 to 3 hours early because it's just massive humanity. So Orlando International is offering, if you're flying out on a morning flight, you can actually go online for free. And I'm not going to think of what it's called. Did you pull it up? Probably.
Yeah, it is the reservation lane. It's just a reservation. It's through Clear, powered by Clear, but you need to make a reservation in advance up to 72 hours prior to your flight.
Right. So it's morning flights only, but it's something you can go on and do. You'll find that on our page, but that is a great, again, if you don't have pre-check, you have a morning flight, get on there and do that. That will save you a lot of time as well. So again, a nice option. And if you, we both follow the Orlando Airport on Facebook and social media. They're pretty funny. They post some funny stuff. So if you fly there often, or you just maybe like want to get an idea of the airport, it's a great page to follow, but that's how we learned of that. So that's just, again, that's a great way to maybe speed your time through security in Orlando, especially in the morning.
Absolutely. Stephanie mentioned that she likes their door-to-door service that they use straight from their house to the hotel, but it takes about 18 hours because it's in their car.
They are troopers.
I guess you don't have to worry about the flight delays.
Have you ever driven to Disney World?
I have driven from Chicago. No, I didn't drive. When I was a child, we drove from Chicago. And I would say as a passenger, it was excruciating. So I have no idea how it was as a driver. For us, it would be up here in, St. Paul, Minnesota, it would be about 24 solid hours of driving, not counting breaks. Good friend of mine just drove down with her huge, 12 passenger van and her 8 children. And they stopped multiple places along the way. And some of them are old enough to drive. And so they shared driving, but then she stopped quite a bit on the way back because it's just, I think it's painfully long. I don't know how she did it. I think she's Superwoman.
Well, I would say, and I think, especially after a Disney vacation, you're exhausted. So the thought of getting in the car, after walking that much, and I drive, and I'm someone who drives. I drive home to Maine twice a year. That's 12 to 13 hours. So I'm capable of doing it. But then I get there and don't do much. So I don't walk 8 miles a day or something. And we live now.
Drive back to my hotel from the parking lot.
I can barely do that. So 15 hours from where we are in Ohio to Disney World. And lots of people do it. And for various reasons, which is, it's doable. You can break it up, all of that, but and good for you, for all of you could do it.
I know. I wish we could. I wish there's a way that we could, figure that and schedule.
There's perks of it.
There definitely are. So. Yep. And it's just nice to have your own vehicle there too.
Yeah. So. A little more freedom, which is nice. Right. So again, when we get those kind of updates or tips and tricks, you can find those on our Facebook group for sure, but also all of our social media channels. Yeah. Well, Jennifer went and ran, which now feels like a long time ago.
I know, it was several weeks ago.
To chat about it. So finally tonight we are going to dig in. There's a lot of race news, but to really talk about her experience more. And then if you have any interest or maybe you need some motivation, I guess I'm talking to myself. Again, one runner, another not a runner. Right. But if you have any interest in doing this or you have done races, we love hearing about that. But Jennifer and her daughter did it. You've done a lot, but your most recent trip is what you're going to talk about.
Right. Yeah. We've done several runDisney race weekends. My first was 2014. And runDisney is the only reason why I would ever contemplated a half marathon. And it took me just really wanting to have that experience to realize that I love the longer distances. The first 5K is not my favorite. I know a lot of people who like to run 5Ks, and I should qualify this. When I say run, I mean run walk intervals. I am not running full out ever. I don't have it in me to do that. I'm not sure if I ever did, but in my mid 40s now, I don't think that that's ever going to happen. But the nice thing about Run Disney is that it's so much more than just the race. It's really, unless you're a super elite runner, it's not about your speed. It's about finishing. It's about having a nice time. It's about the spectacle. It's about people watching. Because, I mean, we all know Disney fans, we like our matchy t-shirts. We like our costumes. We like,
Festive.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, all of the races have a DJ and music at the start, and, places for photos. And so they're a lot of fun. It's so much more than just showing up for a road race, running as fast as you can and being done.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what most people do think is, oh, okay, well, it's going to be those serious runners, or that's the experience. When that's the race, the running is just a piece of it.
Right.
I mean,
and there's entertainment along the way.
You should do it. Yeah.
And there's music along the way. And so, I mean, for super elite folks who want, this to be their, their personal best kind of race, that's kind of tough to do depending on what corral you're in, because you're going to be behind people like me, maybe, or you might be behind folks who are stopping for character photos and then getting back on the road. And so you just never know what that's going to look like in those races. And so, it's not necessarily a place to run your fastest race again, unless you're placing in a very early corral, but you're going to have a lot of fun. You can't not have a lot of fun. I feel bad for people who show up with no tiara or costume or something, because it's just not the same. Of course, maybe, with the people watching, it's the same, but I mean, Disney fans are a spectacle in and of themselves. So being in a place that just gives you permission to be as wild and crazy as you want is part of the fun. But I mean, it is a serious race. You do have to train. You do have to be, in a good place. We trained in Minnesota winter weather, got down there to Florida, and it was unseasonably warm. It was really humid. And so we just took it, however we could from the beginning. The races all start in the dark. Unless you are very fast, you're not finishing in the dark. So we got about halfway through the race for the half marathon this past time, and the sun was coming up in a stretch that's kind of a miserable stretch once you pass. Once you get through Magic Kingdom and past the Grand Floridian and Polynesian and things like that, you just kind of get on a miserable stretch of road where it's just hot and there's sun and there's no shade, and you have to be prepared for that. And so, I know a lot of people struggled through the race this time because it was so hot and humid, but, we did just fine and had a great time. But, a few things that I think are important I just wanted to go through a few things I think that are important for people to know when it comes to Run Disney and Run Disney races, is that there are a few ways to register for them. But first and foremost, you're registering pretty much the minute the races open for registration. And if you are looking to run the 5K or the 10K, may the odds be ever in your favor, because you'll go into a random queue that will, that you'll just kind of sit in for a little bit until you are able to actually get in and register for the races. And the 5K and the 10K sell out usually instantly. Pretty quickly. They're sold out today for Wine and Dine in November, the Wine and Dine race weekend in November. Last I checked, the half marathon and the challenge are still there. Something that's very popular for Run Disney race weekends, they have learned, is that there are people who are crazy. I've been this person and will be again, where one race isn't enough. And so we want a challenge. So if you run the 10K and the half marathon, for most of the race weekends, you get an extra special challenge medal. Or in the case of the marathon weekend, if you do the half or the marathon, that's a special medal. If you do the 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon, these are all consecutive days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then you get a special medal for that as well on top of your race medals. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a commitment. I mean, this is not... for me, this is not a Disney vacation. I'm going down for a race weekend. We'll do a lot of fun things in the process, but it's just a different level of fun. As far as the events go, though, just, for frame of reference. So the season really starts with Wine and Dine in November. And then there's the full marathon weekend in January, usually the week after the January 1st, whenever that is. And that's the only weekend that has a full marathon. So it's a 5K, 10K half marathon. And then February is always Princess Half Marathon weekend. And now in April, we have the Springtime Surprise, which in the past has been Star Wars weekend. They've also had other fun, race weekends. They've had the Tower of Terror 10 miler. That was a standalone weekend. Several years ago, they had the Everest Challenge, which was an obstacle 5K and a scavenger hunt, which was super fun. I got to do that one year. Disneyland used to have race weekends, and then they went away when there was some construction planned, and there's really no ETA on when those will return. And then Disneyland Paris has traditionally had a September race weekend, and then they were working to introduce a May race weekend. Nothing has officially been announced yet for this year, but it sounds like they're really working on getting the September race weekend back. So there are some things you can do beyond Disney World as well. And then what else? Oh, if you take a Disney cruise and you end up at Castaway Key, you can do the Castaway 5K. And it used to be an organized event. Right now, post everything reopening, it's not organized, but you can still get a medal for it. All you have to do is run it on your own and then go to, I believe guest services on the ship has the medals, and they're rubber medals. They're not the hard, fancy medals. But then they also have them at the bike shop where you can, on the island, where you can rent bikes and kayaks and all that fun stuff. So you can still do it and run and get your medal, run your experience, or walk it or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, there are different options, and really something for everyone.
And you're going to probably talk about this, but pricing too.
Yeah. That's a good question. I haven't looked at pricing.
I haven't looked at we can. So this is something we can help you get booked as well. But like Jennifer said, this isn't something most people know about this. A lot of people make this as a destination, but you do have to know you're ready to go ahead and book, because they don't just hang around. And then actually a fellow agent, things had opened right beforehand. I think that's why she was able to jump on it, but it really is knowing those registration dates are coming and being ready to commit then. So that's one.
Absolutely.
Regardless of which race you're ready to do.
And you need to log in with your account to register for everything. And so that's something that's important. The races are not cheap. I just pulled up the Wine and Dine half marathon weekend race prices. And again, you get what you pay for.
Right.
The 5K is it includes tax, but $103.40. So just over $100. The 10K is almost $150. And then the half marathon by itself is about $230. And then the 2-course challenge, which is the half marathon, the 10K, the special race medal, is about $380. And so not only are you running at 5 o'clock in the morning, dark 30, you're paying everything for it.
You are, which you have a medal that not many people have.
Right. Yeah. And you get race shirts as well. I guess I should talk about the expo a little bit. And so, again, running these races is a commitment. You do have to arrive early and go to the expo. The expo is, they have somewhat extended hours, but usually only until 7 or maybe 8 o'clock at night before the races. So it's not like it goes late. You need to arrive at least, by the afternoon, the day before your first race, if you're running multiple races. Expo is at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Center. There is transportation from all of the Disney World resorts to ESPN, and that you go to one building. You hopefully have already signed your race waiver in advance. There's an electronic way to do that. And then you go in, you get your race bib or bibs, plural, if you're running several races. The challenge does have one bib that you wear for both races, but then they send you to a whole other complex, which is where all of the vendors are to actually pick up your t-shirts. So you go from one building to another building. So it's not like everything is in one spot, like some of the other races you may have run in local areas. And then there's a third building that you can go to for all of the Run Disney race merchandise. And, if that's something that's really important to you, you're going to want to be there on the first day of the expo before the expo even opens, because that race merchandise goes fast. And I've always found things that I've liked and that I've purchased. I don't know why I didn't have the race shirt with me that I just got this time. I mean, there's always something there, but there are some items that are coveted more than others. There's also a way to pre-purchase some items in advance and then just pick those up when you're there. But there's usually a very short window when those are available. So if some of those commemorative items are really important to you, you want to be there right away, or just know that you're probably not going to get some of the, annual pass holder things for sure, but some of the more special items that they make available for purchase, because we like our merch.
Well, and I mean, I know you guys timed it pretty well in terms of getting over there and crowds, but how much time should someone plan from the time they're leaving their resort to hitting all the stops at the expo?
Yeah, I mean, for this past race weekend, it was just the two of us. We were only doing the half marathon. And so we got there later than just about everyone else. Most people get there earlier for the expo, or they're with other people in their group and people are running different races that weekend. So we got there just the day before the half marathon. We left on our flight about 7:00 in the morning, got there at noon, earlier than noon. But somewhere around there, got to the resort, went straight to the expo. The buses run pretty constantly, so you're not really waiting very long once you're at your resort. And then we were probably at the expo until 3 or so. So not very long, but long enough to do some shopping and to, take our time. But we didn't spend a lot of time with the race vendors. I really like I love my Boulder Athletic, which used to be Sparkle Skirts. And we like, Raw Threads. There are just some companies that are at a lot of the Disney races that we've come to love and didn't really have the chance to do any browsing at that part of the expo. So to me, that's part of the fun. And then they'll have like KT tape or different, sports tape places where you can actually get taped if that's something that that's important to you, before running a race. And really, it's a huge arena basically filled with different vendors. So if you forgot something, if you forgot, compression socks or whatever, if it's cold and you need gloves, if you need a magnet for your car, anything that you could possibly need and want.
Which is great. And is that also one of those buildings? I know you two took a lot of photos like of some cool, the runDisney things too.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And there are places in all of the buildings to take photos. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to be out there and, and to take your time. You can certainly rush through it, but you miss out on a little bit if you rush through it. So, and there, for Princess Weekend, the Cinderella carriage is out. And so I've passed this in past years, like we just haven't wanted to wait in line. And because again, we were there for the last day, we only ran, I can't remember. I think it was just my first year in 2014 that I only ran the half marathon. But then after that, we've run a whole bunch of other races. And so it was usually very busy at the expo. So we wouldn't wait in line for any of these pictures. And now there wasn't anyone in the line because there was no one there. We were kind of
that's kind of good
end of when we could go. And so we stopped and got, some fun pictures. But again, if you're getting there early, be prepared that there are huge crowds and there are things that you want to wait for, but it's part of the event. It's part of the fun. Mm-hmm. So I think get there early, plan a few days before the races, or go with a whole group of people who are running some of the other races and just enjoy the experience with them.
Right.
But one of the reasons why you have to pick all this stuff up before the race is because the races start at 5:00 in the morning. Let's think about Disney World property. Let's think about what does it mean to move 25,000 people or more into a race?
I was going to say, it's not like your local downtown race where you can just show up a few minutes early.
So, this shifted back a half an hour when the races started again. They used to start at 5:30. The buses would start running at 3. The buses from your resort start running now at 2:30 in the morning. So this year, set the alarm for 2:15. We were ready in about a half an hour. The trick is to have everything laid out the night before. have things in your pockets. If you have fuels, if you have other stuff that you want to have with you. I always bring ibuprofen and a few other things. It's already in my pockets. I put on my race stuff and it's already full.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about that. But yeah, we were on a bus by 2:45 in the morning. You get there, you take some pictures, you chat with some people, you enjoy the atmosphere, dance around to the music, maybe stretch a little bit. And then they open the corrals. I think they open the corrals at about 4. And so one thing is, when you get your race bib, it has, an indication of where you will then, what corral you will enter, where you will start the races. And so this time we were in S3, I think, which is the 3rd corral. I believe that there were 5 for the half marathon this time. They've done a number of different things over the past years. I mean, it used to be that the half marathon, there were longer waits in between the starts because there are multiple starts to get everybody on the road safely. But they would have up through Corral P, I think. So it was alphabetical, A, B, C, D, all the way to P. And we started on the road. And this year, the start was a little bit different. But what they do now is you're in your corral, and as you make your way through, each corral is partitioned off even to smaller numbers of people. And then they started us about every 2 minutes apart. And so you'd have a 2-minute start with, a couple hundred people or a few hundred, I don't even know. But you just keep going for about 45 minutes, not quite an hour, I think, is when when the first corral starts is at the official start time. And then all the rest of us slowpokes for multiple starts to get on the road. And so I didn't start at 5 o'clock in the morning. The elites started at 5 o'clock.
Right. And you had said how far, you're not just doing, show up and just do a 5K, or whatever it is.
Right.
Or 10K.
Right.
There is some added distance in there.
Yeah, and we went through security now. So we, this was different this time for the races, but so we arrived at Epcot, and the Epcot parking lot is where a lot of races depart from, not just Princess, lots of them. Some, have departed in the past from the Magic Kingdom parking lot, but a lot end and start at Epcot because it's just a really nice staging area. But it, we were pretty far back. So usually you just kind of went forward, went through, dogs and a quick bag check security there. Well, now they actually had us walk forward to Epcot, go through the Epcot metal detectors, the new metal detectors, and then walk all the way back around. And so that was a lengthier walk even from where the buses dropped us off and to go to the staging area for the race. So it's a little bit different, but I thought it was slick, a lot more efficient, because with bag check, having just open bags and pull things out always took a long time. So it's nice not to have that in the parks. It's great that they're using it for the races.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah. So, and then when you're in the corral, you have to be prepared for everything, because Florida in weather, a lot of people will bring throwaway clothes to wear in the corral. So they'll, go to a local thrift shop and buy everything from, just a $3 sweatshirt to a robe to whatever, because some of the mornings are cold. We've been there when it's literally been 30 degrees for race mornings. And it doesn't matter how prepared you think you are, you're not prepared for 30-degree damp Florida weather.
Yeah.
Standing there in a corral with hundreds of your, new best friends before you get going. And once you get going, you're fine. Mm-hmm. But waiting is really tough. And you do spend a lot of time waiting. The other tough thing for me is always figuring out how to hydrate, because I'm waiting in this corral. I don't want to lose my spot. But if I have too much liquid before the race starts, I've been there where I've just had the race finally starts and I'm dying.
Oh, that's the worst feeling. Yeah.
And those first potties for a half marathon have the longest darn lines, because there's so many people who do that. But it's all of those pieces that you don't really think about when you're doing smaller local races that you have to think about, when you're doing the Disney races. But then, once you're on the road, there's so much entertainment. Like I had a music playlist that I fully intended to use because I run faster when I'm listening to music. but there's so much entertainment around you that I don't know. I don't want to miss out on any of that around me. So, I mean, there was a stretch in the back 3-4 miles or so, where I used my own music, but otherwise there's so much entertainment, on the race course that it's tough. And then there's the running through the parks.
Yeah.
I mean, take my money. That's all I have to say.
Right. That's so cool.
There's something, I mean, if you're a sentimental, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up.
Oh.
If you're a sentimental Disney fan, there's nothing like getting halfway through a half marathon and running through Magic Kingdom. Like, it is the coolest thing in the world. And, I think that Disney World, you don't get as much race time as you do even in other parks. When Disneyland did their races, you got a lot more time in the parks, just the way that things are situated. Disneyland Paris, you get a ton of time in the parks. I did the 5K, the 10K, and the half marathon there in 2018. Hope to be back soon. So, I mean, you don't get as much time maybe as you might want in the parks, but I really love some of the 5K courses, especially if they go through Epcot, because you don't get a lot of road time. It's a 5K. So you're mostly in Epcot or, going around the boardwalk or coming back through Epcot. So that's a lot of fun. So again, worth the price of admission. I do want to mention that while, with these races, they aren't your fastest races. For most of them, you still have to, you really have to be in shape, be prepared for them. The 5K is very walkable. It's not timed. You just, go with the flow with everyone else. But the 10K and the half marathon are timed. And so you have to maintain a 16-minute per mile pace from when the last person starts. And so if you are a middle of the road, what is your cat doing?
She's literally staring at the one medal I have.
She's listening.
She's kind of freaking me out, but I have one race medal and that's what she's looking at.
I
don't know. She's just mad at me. I think that's what it is. But yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's funny. No, but you need to be trained, I think, to comfortably finish maybe at a 14-minute per mile pace, because then, travel being what it is and weather being what it is, if you need to slow down, you're safe, finishing that race, because you never know if you're going to end up, in that last corral and sure. You want to finish. I know that this is very aspirational for a lot of people as well, though. And so, so there are folks who will start, even if they're not sure they can finish, and if you are in a point where you get swept, you still get your medal. What happens is you're corralled into just motor coach buses, and then they bring you to the finish, and you're still able to collect your medal and, the end of race food and things like that. And, for a lot of folks, finishing the 10 miles is a big deal. And it is a big deal.
It is. Absolutely.
There were folks who were dropping like flies, I think, this past Princess.
Well, I think you were there in February and it was that hot.
It was hot.
That tells you how, and that
right.
hot and that early too.
Right. And you just never know. Right. I know that Wine and Dine has had its own special things happen with, one year it was the Splash and Dash, and they even cut the race short because the weather was so precarious. Disney does everything they can to hold the races, and they do everything they can to keep people safe during the races. And if that means they absolutely have to shorten a race for whatever reason, this year it wasn't. I don't think there was officially an elevated flag, because they've got different flags where they say if it's green, you're safe. If it's whatever, red through black, there are different levels of concern. I think it's just that it was February, and how many of us are training in, 80-degree humidity in February and prepared for that. So,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that, and maybe even 1530, there have been times when I've just eked by with these 2020, I was in terrible shape. I'd put on a ton of weight, and I was still running those races. I did the 5K, 10K, and the half marathon, but I was suffering by the end of the half marathon.
Yeah.
So, the other thing I've learned over the years is the better trained I am, the more fun I have after the races. I mean, you're getting up at 2:30 in the morning, you're not sleeping. So this go around, we got up, we ran the race, we had, what did we do? We grabbed a bite to eat, took a nap, took showers, went out to Epcot, had a really nice dinner at Le Cellier at Epcot that night. And so some people, and we've done this before too, like I packed my baby wipes and did a quick little, wipe off and, went straight to breakfast and then the parks after that. A little change of clothes and you're good to go, because you can leave, a bag at the exit and pick that up and, and have a quick change of clothes if you want to. So it's not unheard of.
That's nice too. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Right. Yeah. So you just leave it there at the start of the race. At the end of the race, it's there for you. And if the race goes in different directions, it's actually, in a truck, and then they'll truck it on over, and then, you pick it up there. So really easy, options to have all of those things. But then when you get to the finish, you finish. You try to get the best picture you can and not be dying, and you smile because there are photographers everywhere. Really, there are photographers lots of places on the course. But you get your medal, there's a medical tent right there. And then lots of bottles of water and Powerade, a food box, a place for pictures. Something that has changed over the years is after the half marathons, they also used to have these little just mesh bags that they gave out to everybody too. They were fun branded mesh bags, and it was something that you got right after the race. And so I got used to getting that, to filling it with, water, Powerade, my food box. I'd have to carry everything with me. Those don't exist anymore. So I would say an important tip is to just have a bag, because you just run a half marathon or a marathon, and I don't know about anybody else. I have fat fingers. My brain's a little numb. I can't think. All I want is all the bottles of water.
Right.
But I probably will down 2 or 3 bottles of water after a race. And, and then they've got the food box and a banana, and then you want to get your pictures. And then in some cases, like this one, it was really hot, so they had cooling towels that they gave to everyone. You really want to have something to put that stuff in, because if you're carrying it around, it's, it's tough to do.
Right.
So I was smart enough this year to bring a bag with me, and you can't go back. You get your medal, and it's just, they're filtering everybody around so that you don't run. I mean, no one is congregating. It doesn't become unsafe in those areas. But yeah, and then there are places for pictures at the end of the race as well with your medal. And it used to be too that they Disney used to contract with Sport Photos or a completely different company to do all of the race photos. And that's not the case anymore. Several years ago, they went to PhotoPass photographers, which I think they should have had all along.
Yeah.
And so you have Memory Maker. It includes all of your race photos.
And they're great. I have to say, though, you shared some. I mean, I felt like you had a private photographer. I mean, you probably knew where they were maybe, but I mean, they are good pictures, and a lot of them of you during the race.
Well, and they are in big, they are almost all of them are in big, like neon green tent sort of areas that sort of protect them too. And they let runners know not to run into them. And so you see them, that they're going to be there and that they're coming. And sometimes you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to have a picture taken right now. So I feel awful. Right. Lots of times, people are like, let's run in front of the photographers. I'm like, heck no, if I'm walking. There's none of that happening. Right. But then there are some places where you can peel off and like in front of the castle. I've never done this because if I stop, I can't get going again. But you can wait in line for a little bit, get a picture there. I guess I did it once when I was at the 10K. There was a great Minnie Mouse was in a costume I had never seen her wearing. I had to stop. I was making great time. So I knew that even if I waited in the super long line, I'd still be fine to finish. And so I did wait for Minnie Mouse, but otherwise I'm not the person who stops and waits for photos. I'm in awe of those who can, and then who can get moving again.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, that part is just a lot of fun. And part of the spectacle is, the people around you, getting those pictures taken too, and all the selfies, lots of different, I think, selfie moments available as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the events are a lot of fun. We used to be able to book, race registrations and packages. That isn't happening right now. I hope it comes back eventually. It was difficult still to get in and to book those, even as travel planners, but it was nice to have that option to try to do that for folks, because the races do fill up so fast. And then I should mention that all of the races also have charities that you can run for and raise money for, and then obtain your bibs, your race bibs that way. And sometimes at the very last minute, I'm almost positive that Give Kids the World and maybe one other had some extra race registrations, because the charities have to purchase them. And then they're able to put whatever fundraising constraints on those race registrations for folks to be able to earn those the race bibs. And so every once in a while, a few days before the race, they might have something available that they will be selling at whatever the market cost is, which is, the same thing that they paid market value, as far as I understand, for those race registrations. So that's a big deal for the charities too, and for their fundraising. Yeah. But I'm not surprised that the 5K and the 10K are sold out. That just happens so fast these days. But I feel like it depends on the race, because sometimes the challenges go just as fast as the 5K, 10K. Because it's fun. If you're going to do the 5K, the 10K and the half marathon, anyhow, run it as the challenge, and then you get the extra medal, and that's a lot of fun. It used to be, when Disneyland had races, that if you ran Disney World race and a Disneyland race in the same year, you would automatically get a coast to coast medal. And so I've got a coast to coast medal, and then I think I might have. I do, because it's my friend. I have my Castle de Chateau. So I ran Disney World and Disneyland Paris in 2018. And so I have my Castle de Chateau down here, and it just makes me happy. It makes me realize I can do
I would
hard things.
I'd be really proud. That's amazing. So cool.
But the race weekends are a lot of fun, but again, they're a commitment. And so, so you can't, unless you're staying for quite a bit longer,
right?
You don't want to try to, as with any Disney trip, you don't want to try to pack everything into that trip. You're just going to be miserable. And so you need to listen to yourself, listen to your body. A lot of people go to the races after not having slept at all. I'm a morning person. I go to sleep early, so I usually get a few hours, before the races. But if people are normally up until midnight, and then you've got adrenaline going, and then you've got a 2:30 in the morning wake up call, I can't believe it. People do it all the time.
I'd be sleeping on a bench afterwards. I'd be like, forget walking around. I know.
Yeah. I should mention too. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and I'm trying to think where we were. We were in the parks or something, and you could see people coming back with their medals on. I have no sense of time, but you hear everyone saying oh, congratulations. How was the race? Again, I think people recognize that too, which is really fun.
Right. Well, and that's another point. Thank you for mentioning that. So something that I love about Run Disney races is post-race, you're surrounded by people who ran that race or ran the races the day before, or who will be running the races the next day. A lot of people wear their medals. A lot of people wear their race shirts. It's a whole celebration. It's not just, local races are fine, but you get there, you run the race, if it's
probably not going to wear your medal all weekend.
No, you might grab a beer or whatever.
Down to the bar that night, you're probably not going to be rolling in with the
right. Medal. Right. But we wear our medals for a couple of days.
Yes. Yeah.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the celebration. It's not abnormal. It's abnormal after a lot of races. I mean,
Right.
don't see that around these parts. And I live in an area with lots of elite runners. The Twin Cities Marathon goes, practically right past my house. Like, it's a really popular race period or race area for lots of elite runners. And so, and there, I mean, if I ran the Twin Cities Marathon, I'd be wearing that medal for a year.
I know, I would. If I go run the Disney 5K, I'm going to be wearing it for a while.
Yeah, you will.
I think it was November. That's what it was. When I was there in November, it probably was wine and dine, like that we saw women coming back.
Yeah.
And we're all like, oh my gosh, we're just getting into the park to go eat our croissants. So clearly not the same, but they were wearing them. And then you did see people later in the day who probably the same as you had gone home back to their room, took a nap, refresh, and then wore them out. And like you did, I know you talked about this a few weeks ago, but that you did the capture the moment afterwards, which was, I mean, that was great to kind of capture. You did it that day and you were together and you had your medals.
It was so serendipitous that they started to offer them in Epcot, and we were going to be in Epcot. And so I thought, this is a perfect experience. I hadn't even really thought about it. Knew we wanted to get a little dressed up because we had, a dinner planned and, I mean, not that you have to get dressed up for, dinners in the parks. You certainly don't, right. But we just wanted to for fun. So it was great. It was great to have that opportunity. But even, I mean, you could have gotten some great photos with any PhotoPass photographer in the parks too. Not the same experience, but yeah, I mean, it's a great excuse to have those medals with you and have fun. But one thing I didn't mention is that, I mean, the race transportation is available from all of the Disney resorts before and after the races, and it's incredibly efficient. And so again, I think you always want to be on one of the earlier buses. You just never know what's going to happen with traffic and later buses, and I can't let myself wait. Also, something that they did differently for Princess Half Marathon this year is that they were having all of the people commuting in park off-site. And I think that they were parking at Hollywood Studios and then busing them in as well. And it used to be that they would just come to Epcot. But because of the way that the race course was laid out this year and the timing, they, had them parking somewhere else. And so after the race had started, our corrals were moving up. We saw people filtering in still, they must have been, from late buses or, I mean, they still run them as long as they can. But if you get there super late, you might not be in your assigned corral, especially if you're in an earlier corral.
Right.
You might just have to filter into the last corral available, for the race start. And so I like to try to, get trained and be in an earlier corral because you get to start earlier. It's darker out. You have better weather for those races. I really feel like the folks who start later are at a bit of a detriment because it does get hotter faster when you have to wait an extra, 20 minutes maybe to start. It's always a little bit disheartening when you are starting the race and the elites are coming back and you're thinking, I just started and you are almost done. I'll never run a 5-minute mile or faster. And these people do.
Yeah, right.
But you can look at that and think, what? It's still dark. You could go back to bed.
Right. Probably not even sweaty.
I know. It's amazing to me that exists because that does not exist in my world.
Yeah. But
I mean, it does with the racers. So
right.
It's fun. It's fun to cheer people on and to see, people going, just to be in that large number of people, I think sharing the same experience. That's always exciting. We'll have to get you out there one of these days.
I know. I do think every time you talk about it, I'm like, oh,
yeah, even a 5K. I mean, the 5Ks are
5K
so
would
fun.
Be max.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Well, hopefully for those watching who either have thought about it or just have heard about it, I feel like even if you don't, runDisney just seems to be another one of those terms that most people have heard of but didn't quite know what it is. So maybe it might inspire you to get out there. So I love how you broke it down, though. I think there's pieces that we've talked about. We've never talked about it fully, about every aspect of it. Which is
yeah. And I know I'm missing something. I always am. You can't possibly go through everything all the time, but But yeah,
No,
I mean,
you did a great job.
there are water stops along the race and, fuel stops along the races and stuff like that too. So that support is there. And I mean, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of the volunteers, because there are volunteers at all of these races, the folks who come out and do the entertainment for the races. I mean, there's a gospel choir at the end of the half marathon where I'm going to just cry for the last half mile, because once you pass the gospel choir, you're like, first of all, it's a gospel choir, right, and then you're almost done. There's some school bands that will perform. I mean, these races would not exist without all of the support folks who are there earlier than we are. I mean, so they'll get there 2 or earlier, or they'll work all night to make sure the race happens. So
that's very
true. Huge shout out to everybody who was involved in coordinating the races and all the volunteers, because it's a big job to stand out there all day and hand out, for hours. I mean, hours and hours, hand out water and, fuel and stuff like that to the runners, and to take care of the runners and the medical tent folks. And so, yeah, I mean, and there's so much support at these races. I think anybody who's run local races, that they're hit or miss. Some are great for us, and, back of the Packers. Sometimes the race support runs out. That never happens at a Run Disney race. So you're supported throughout the whole time that you can be on that course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fun times. Boy, I feel like I talked a lot.
Well, you covered a lot. No, it was a great topic. So no, it was great.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, again, pop on over to the Facebook group or ask them in this, in the chat or in the comment section of this topics and tidbits for this week. And, I'd be happy to share a little bit more. I could share more about, the experiences I've had in different places as well. And I hope that Disney continues to offer new and different things. They used to have, night races. I believe the Springtime Surprise that's coming up this weekend, or next weekend, we'll have a nighttime race again. And they resurrected the Tower of Terror 10 miler for the Springtime Surprise. So it's a new race weekend where they're just kind of shoving in all, I think, of different things that people have really liked in the past. Right. And so that's a race weekend that I hope to do again. But Disneyland Paris, I enjoyed, but didn't realize when I registered that the 5K was at night and the 10K was the next morning. And then the half marathon was the morning after that, which was great for expo and timing and everything else. But boy, to run a race at night and then, to come down enough to go to sleep to run a race in the morning was crazy. Something else and totally worth it. And I got an extra challenge medal for that one too. So, or two extra challenge medals, because there was the half marathon and full marathon challenge. And there was a 3 race challenge. And extra t-shirts and,
yeah, of course,
all the fun stuff.
Nice.
Well, for those of you who were hanging with us this whole time, hey, thanks. It's a lot of information, I think, to cover in just one, in one conversation, but they're a lot of fun. I recommend, Run Disney race weekends to everybody. And I think that they're great aspirational race weekends. The training, the Galloway Run Walk method, with training was something that resonated with me. And I never would have known that if I hadn't just gotten into Run Disney and realized, oh, this is a thing and it's okay. Doesn't work for some people, totally works for me. As long as the intervals are short enough, I can keep, I can do both and, knock on wood or whatever, but I'm 46. I started running 8 years ago, like in my late 30s. I've not had a single running injury at all, and in a full marathon, I don't even know, several half marathons, 20 or 30 races overall. So, I highly espouse to the run walk method. So, great. All right. Now I'm really done. Like Jennifer, I'm tired.
I am a little tired. Sorry. Wow. Well, thank you for everyone for watching. And again, maybe Run Disney might not be your cup of tea necessarily, but we have an amazing YouTube channel as well. So We were in Universal. It's hard to believe it was 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot more videos coming from there, but every Friday we drop a new video as well. And then we didn't even talk about, we'll have to talk about that next week. Jennifer will be sailing very soon. So I know it's crazy. How many days?
I think it's 9 now. We
9
still
or
have a
10, I was going to
room.
say, yeah. So we'll be previewing that
Right.
next week and then obviously talking about that the next week. But definitely, again, if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do that for us. Hit that bell icon as well. It's honestly a lot of information, and we do it really just to help educate everyone. So if you're looking to book a Disney or Universal trip, feel free to reach out to us as well. And we definitely appreciate you sharing our name with anyone you know planning a Disney or Universal vacation.
Well, thanks so much for watching, and you know where